In this lesson, we're going to be investigating consecutive integer word problems as well as perimeter word problems. And at the beginning, we're going to start with consecutive integer word problems. Now, just as with any other word problems that we do, at the beginning, we're going to write a let statement to define any variable that we're going to need in our equation. Then we'll make our equation, we'll solve it algebraically, and at the end, we'll just write a short sentence explaining the meaning of our answer. Okay, so at the beginning, we're just going to work with consecutive integer questions. So looking here in the box, consecutive integers are integers that are in a sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, they increase by 1 every time. If we're representing our integers algebraically, our first integer is always going to be x because we don't know what the value of the integer is going to be. And then if I want consecutive integers based off of x to get to the next consecutive integer, all I'm going to do is add 1 to it, all right? 1 plus 1 gets me the 2, then 2 plus 1 gets me the 3, 3 plus 1 gets me the 4, etc. So my first integer is going to be x, my second one is going to be x plus 1, my third integer is going to be x plus 2, my next integer is going to be x plus 3, and then x plus 4, and so on. Okay, so algebraically, this is how we're going to represent consecutive integers. All right, so in our first example underneath, it says the sum of three consecutive integers is negative 27. All right, sum, of course, meaning that we're going to be adding. All right, I'm adding three consecutive integers. The sum is negative 27. All right, they want us to find the value of the middle of the three numbers. The first thing I'm going to do here in step one is create my let statements. Since I'm going to be adding three consecutive integers together, I'm going to write three different let statements. So let, and let. Okay, well, my first consecutive integer, I don't know its value, so I'm just going to call it x. Let x equal the first consecutive integer. And since x is my first consecutive integer, to get to my next consecutive integer, I have to take my first one and add 1 to it. X plus 1 then is going to equal my second consecutive integer. And then to get my third consecutive integer, I need to add 1 to this, so this is going to be x plus 2 is my third consecutive integer. Okay, so that's how I'm defining my three consecutive integers. X is the first one, x plus 1 is the second, and x plus 2 is the third consecutive integer. Now I'm going to use what I know from the problem to create an equation. I'm told that the sum of the three consecutive integers is negative 27. So I'm going to take my three consecutive integers and I'm going to add them together. The first one, x, plus the second one, x plus 1, plus the third one, x plus 2, they will all add up to negative 27. And so that's the equation that we're going to use to figure out our three consecutive integers. X plus 1 plus x plus 2 equals negative 27. We can simplify here on the left. X plus x is 3x, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So that becomes 3x plus 3 equals negative 27. And now this is just a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 3 on each side. That leaves me with 3x being equal to negative 30. And then if I divide each side by 3, then I know that x must be equal to negative 10. And that is step 3 in my process here. Now that I know that x equals negative 10, I'm going to revisit my let statements. X, which was a negative 10, that's my first consecutive even integer. So x is negative 10. My second consecutive integer was x plus 1. To figure that out, I'm just going to plug in x's value, negative 10 plus 1, which gives me negative 9. And for my third one, x plus 2, again, I'm just going to plug in negative 10 for x and add 2. Negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. So my three consecutive integers are negative 10, negative 9, and negative 8. Now we're ready for step number 4, where we actually answer the question. It says, find the value of the middle of the three numbers. Well, looking at my three consecutive integers, negative 10, negative 9, and negative 8, negative 9 is my middle value. So I can say the middle of the three numbers is negative 9. All right, negative 9 is the middle value of my three consecutive integers, and so I have successfully answered the question. In our next example, we're told that the sum of three consecutive integers is 51. They want us to find the value of the greatest of the three. So again, I'm going to start off by writing my let statements, and it's 3 consecutive integers, so I'm going to make 3 let statements again. And my first integer, I don't know its value, so I'm just going to call it x. Let x equal the first consecutive integer. And since I'm working with consecutive integers, to get to the second consecutive integer, I have to take the first one and add 1. So x plus 1 is the second consecutive integer. And then I'm going to add 1 to that. X plus 2 is going to be my third consecutive integer. And now that I know what I'm representing my 3 integers with, I can make my equation. Again, it says the sum of the 3 consecutive integers is 51. So I'm going to take the first one, x. I'm going to add it to the second one, x plus 1. I'm going to add those to the third integer, x plus 2. And their sum is 51. Let's go ahead and simplify here on the left. X plus x is going to be 3x. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So we get 3x plus 3 equal to 51. And that's our two-step equation. Subtract 3 on each side. 3x is going to be equal to 48. And then if we divide each side by 3, I know that x is going to equal 16. So that's my third step. X equals 16. Now go back up to your let statements. X is the first consecutive integer, which is 16. Our second consecutive integer, x plus 1, I'm just going to plug in 16 for x. 16 plus 1 is 17. And for the third one, x plus 2, again, sub in 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. So our 3 consecutive integers are 16, 17, and 18. And now I can answer the question, find the value of the greatest of the 3. The greatest of the 3 numbers, is 18 in this example. 18 was the biggest of my 3 consecutive integers. Now, sometimes the questions that we work on are going to ask you to find consecutive even integers. Consecutive even integers are even numbers in a row, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. Okay, so if we represent them algebraically, again, the first one's always going to be some variable. I'll call it x. And to get to my next even number, if x is even, to get to the next even number, I have to take that number and add 2 to that value. So for example, if 2 is my first even number, I have to add 2 to that to get to my next one. I have to add 2 more to get to the one after that and add 2 more. So even integers are always 2 units apart. So x is my first even, x plus 2 is my second even, x plus 4 is my third even number, x plus 6 would be my fourth even, etc. I'm always going to add 2 to the previous number in order to get to my next even number. In our next example, we're told that the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is negative 24. They want to know the greatest value of those 3 consecutive even integers. All right, so just keep in mind here, we're looking at consecutive even integers this time. All right, and so in step 1, when I write my let statements, again, there's going to be 3 of them. So let's write 3 let statements. All right, and my first even integer, I don't know its value, so just call it x. That is the first consecutive even integer this time. Now, if x is an even number, to get to my next even number, I have to take that and add 2 to it. So x plus 2 is the second consecutive even integer. And that means x plus 4 is going to be the third consecutive even integer because I had to add 2 to the previous one to get to the third one. So these are my 3 consecutive even integers. Their sum is negative 24. So I'm going to add these together. The first even, x, plus the second even, x plus 2, plus the third even, x plus 4. Their sum is negative 24. Let's simplify the left side. X plus x again is 3x. And 2 plus 4 is 6. So 3x plus 6 equals negative 24 is our two-step equation. We'll subtract 6 on each side. That means that 3x is negative 30. And then we'll divide each side by 3, meaning that x is negative 10. And that's the third step in our process. Now let's figure out what our consecutive even numbers were. X was the first one, and we just said that that was negative 10. The first even integer is negative 10. The second one, x plus 2, I'm going to substitute in negative 10 for x and do negative 10 plus 2, which is negative 8. And then the third one, x plus 4, again, sub in negative 10. Negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6. So your three consecutive even integers are negative 10, negative 8, and negative 6. And now we can do step 4 where we answer the question, find the value of the greatest of the three. The greatest of the three numbers, is, well, that would be my third one here, which was negative 6. Negative 6 was the greatest of my three consecutive even integers. Besides consecutive even integers, sometimes our questions might ask for consecutive odd integers, so 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. If we represent these algebraically, again, our first one is always going to be x. X is an odd number this time. And if x is odd, to get to my next odd number, I have to take that first odd number and add 2 to it. All right, so this is where people get confused. They think they might have to add 1. But if you take an odd number and add 1, then that's going to be an even number. To get to an odd number to the next odd number, you have to add 2. So for example, if 1 is my first odd number, to get to the next one, I add 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. I'm adding 2 each time. So x is my first odd number. X plus 2 is my second odd number. X plus 4 is my third odd number. X plus 6 is my fourth odd number, etc. Okay, add 2 units every time to get from one odd number to the next one. In our next example, we're told that the sum of three consecutive odd integers is 45. Find the greatest of the three. So we'll start off with our let statements. I need 3 of them since there's going to be 3 consecutive odd integers. And I'm just going to call x the first one. X is the first consecutive odd integer. All right, now if x is my first consecutive odd integer, I have to take that value and add 2 to it to get to my second consecutive odd integer. So x plus 2 is my second consecutive odd integer. And then if I add 2 more to that, x plus 4 is going to be my third consecutive odd integers. Odd numbers are always 2 units apart, so you're adding 2 units every time. Now we can make the equation. I'm going to add these together since the sum is 45. The first x plus the second odd x plus 2 plus the third odd x plus 4, their sum is 45. Let's simplify the left. X plus x is 3x, and 2 plus 4 is 6. So 3x plus 6 is 45. And now we can subtract 6 on each side. That means that 3x is 39. And if we divide each side by 3, then x is equal to 13. And that's the third step of our process. Now let's get our numbers. The first consecutive odd integer, x, that's 13. My second one, x plus 2, substitute in 13. 13 plus 2 is 15. And then my third one, x plus 4, again, substitute in 13. 13 plus 4 is going to be 17. So my three consecutive odd integers are 13, 15, and 17. And now we can answer the question, what's the value of the greatest? The greatest of the three numbers this time is 17. 17 was the biggest of my three consecutive odd integers. In the next part of the lesson, we're going to look at perimeter word problems. And if you recall from earlier grades, to find the perimeter of a shape, all you need to do is add all sides. Okay, so if you're working with a triangle, you're going to add 3 numbers together. Any quadrilateral that you're working with, you're going to add 4 numbers together. A pentagon, add 5 numbers together, etc. Now, if you are working with a rectangle, remember that rectangles have special perimeter equations. One of them, all right, on a rectangle, so a rectangle looks something like this. Okay, you can have a length L, all right, and you can have a width W. So one thing, if I just add them all together, I could have length plus length plus width. That's one perimeter equation for a rectangle. Another one, if you were actually to simplify this, I have two lengths here, so two length, and I also have two width plus two width. 2 times the length plus 2 times the width will also give me the perimeter of this rectangle. I could also take this expression here and I can factor that. If I divide each of those by 2, I would have 2 times the sum of the length and the width. All right, so add the length and the width together. That sum, if I multiply it by 2, will also represent the perimeter. So that's just important to remember if you're working with a rectangle. All right, otherwise just add up all of your sides together and that will give you the perimeter as well. So in our first example here, it says the length and width of a rectangle are consecutive integers. The perimeter of the rectangle is 86 inches. They want us to find the length and the width of our rectangle. Two things that we're looking for, the length and the width. So I'm going to make two let statements to begin. All right, so let's start with the length. I don't know what the length's value is, so I'm just going to call L the length. Let L equal the length. All right, and if L is the length, normally you would think, well, W can be the width. However, we're not going to call W the width. I'm going to go back up here. They tell me that the length and the width are consecutive integers. So if L is the length, then all I have to do is add 1 to that, L plus 1, and that's going to be the width. Okay, so L is the length, L plus 1 is the width. They're consecutive integers. All right, so if I were to envision a rectangle, I can even draw that over here. All right, I have L for the length and L plus 1 for the width. Okay, not a great diagram. These should actually be longer than these since I added 1, but no big deal. You get the general idea. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my equation. And again, I've got 3 different ways that I can set this up. Any of the 3 ways will be fine. Okay, so actually if I just take this first one here, I'm going to be home free. I'm just going to add up all of the sides together. So if I take the length and I add the width, L plus 1, and then I add the length again, and then I add the width again, L plus 1, that equals the perimeter, which in this example is 86 inches. Okay, so the length plus the width plus the length plus the width equals 86. Let's simplify this. Length plus length plus length plus length, that's 4L plus 1 plus 1 is 2 equals 86. 4L plus 2 equals 86. Now we can subtract 2 on each side. 4L is going to equal 84. And dividing each side by 4 means that L, the length, is going to equal 21. So that's step 3. So coming back up here, L, the length, I now know L is 21 and the units are inches. The length is 21 inches. To get the width I called L plus 1, I'm just going to substitute in 21. 21 plus 1 is 22 inches. So now I can answer the question. Find the length and the width. Well, I can now say that the length is 21 inches and the width is 22 inches. Those are the length and width of my rectangle. In my next example, I'm told that the perimeter of a triangle is equal to the sum of the lengths of its 3 sides. Suppose that the lengths of the sides of the triangle are consecutive even integers. What's the length of the shortest side if the perimeter is 66 inches? Okay, so again, a triangle has 3 sides, so in step 1, I'm going to make 3 different let statements. All right, and I'm just going to call X my first side of the triangle. Let X equal the first side of the triangle. To get my second side, I'm going to take the first one, X, and I'm going to add 2 to that because we were told that the lengths of the triangle are consecutive even integers. So I have to add 2 to get to the next even integer. this is going to equal the second side, x plus 2. And that means if I add 2 more, x plus 4 is going to be the third side of my triangle. Now I'm going to see if I can set the problem up here. All right, well, again, they told me the perimeter of the triangle is 66 inches. And to find the perimeter, I'm just going to add all the sides together. So the first side, x, plus the second side, x plus 2, plus the third side, x plus 4, all adds up to the perimeter of 66 inches. Let's simplify the left. X plus x is 3x, and 2 plus 4 is 6. 3x plus 6 equals 66. Subtract 6 on each side, so 3x is equal to 60. And then if you divide each side by 3, then x is going to equal 20. All right, x equals 20. So going back up to our let statements now I know my first side, x, well, this is going to be 20 inches. My second side, x plus 2, I'm going to substitute in 20. 20 plus 2 is 22 inches. And my third side, x plus 4, again, substitute in 20. 20 plus 4 is 24 inches. So the three sides of my triangle are 20, 22, and 24 inches, 3 consecutive even integers. And now I can answer the question, what's the length of the shortest side? The shortest side of the triangle, is 20 inches. That was our first side found right here. All right, the shortest side of the triangle is 20 inches.